it's tempting to say, well, if it's the opposite of rapid release, then it must be slow release, right? But that's not the case. You can publish fast, you can publish slow. It becomes irrelevant how quickly you publish rather than in the rapid release methodology, it is required because in that frame, you're feeding an algorithm.
Hey, Johnny, welcome to the Stark Reflections podcast.
Hey, Mark, it is always fun. This is my second or third time on Stark. I don't remember exactly.
It's hard to remember because I've interviewed you so many times for Kobo and this podcast and Drafted Digital. I can't remember. But yeah,
I know.
it's time number something, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
it's not the first. It's not the first time.
Yeah, no. So welcome back, I should have said.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So we're going to be talking today about the artisan author, and I when you first did a talk about this in Vegas last year in
Hmm.
November of 2024. And I was so thrilled that you were planning on putting a book out about this because, gosh darn it, the world needs this book, Johnny.
I mean, any agreement that I do to that will feel self-aggrandizing. Oh, yes, the world definitely needs this book. But interestingly, that is kind of the feedback that I've gotten from some kind of old guard people who were maybe traditional and had long roots in the business, but then came on as indie adopters and defenders of indies when there was a lot more like attacking early on. And so it's interesting to see some of those people say, glad somebody finally said it because it feels a little like the industry has become a little more like I think what Trad originally was kind of saying we were. Like it has become a little bit more churny and like maybe we do need to slow down a little bit and so I think some of those people are like, okay, good.
Yeah, and I probably have some of that old guard in me because I started in the book industry in '92. There
Mm.
wasn't really, even though I was an early self-publisher 21 years ago, before the cool kids started doing it. The cool kids like you started doing it, but not that much earlier. One of the elements. Well, let's before we get, there's so many things I want to talk about, and
Yep.
I know I'm going to have to stay focused, which will be hard for me. But what is Johnny? What is the artisan author?
So I the simplest way to see it is maybe the opposite of rapid release is kind of the way I think about it. So, and when I say rapid release, I'm defining it in kind of a narrow way because you can release things rapidly. You can do rapid release and like there are other things. So when I talk about like the alternative to rapid release or the opposite, I'm saying this idea of publishing exclusively ebooks into Kindle Unlimited only and just focusing on that American ebook Kindle Unlimited whale reader that needs to get a new book every 3 to 4 weeks. And I will say that I try. I mean, I don't like it at all, and I try to like I try to couch things, but I that is right for some people. It's just not right for a lot of people, and I think that it's presented as the right option for most people. And if you look at just online advice in this world, more often than not, you'll see people they're either parroting advice that they've heard or it's their own advice, and it's like, yeah, you need to have 3 to 5 books ready and publish them every 3 to 4 weeks forever. And that's kind of what this is an alternative to. So, and there's a lot to this to unpack as to how you can actually connect better with fans and sell books at higher prices and still have a career, because that's the other half of it. Because it's real easy to say, well, just don't release books rapidly, but we all want to have a career too. We want to find readers, we want to connect, we want to create the art that we wanted to create. And so that's what this book and this philosophy is about being able to slow down, take your time, take away the pressure cooker of that like stress, that burnout stress cycle, and still be able to make a living and still sell books at prices that are fair to you, not just to your reader.
So I want to differentiate something that you said, just to clarify. We talk about rapid release and the model of having to have a new book out every 3 to 4 weeks. You also, this does not mean if you're a fast writer and you actually write fast, you're not poo-pooing that. You're poo-pooing the idea of there's one prescription, get on the treadmill and go nuts and never stop. I mean that you're anti that, even
Yeah.
if even
For
if
me
you're
anyway.
yeah. So you can actually write rapidly,
Hmm.
but you're not putting the pressure on yourself to actually have those steady releases because are you allowing authors to say, "Hey, it's okay to stop and take a breath and take a look around the landscape"?
I mean, that's what I hope. Like all I'm doing is honestly, and make sure that I answer your question, because what'll happen is I'll answer a side question and then I won't come back and answer the
Fair
actual
enough.
question. But I think that there's a lot of appetite for this out there. And it's basically like I'm not doing anything new. This is about unlearning all the ninja tricks and the crazy tactics and techniques that we're using, and it's really very, very simple. It's like you're a writer, make good books, sell them to people who like those books for a fair price. Like it's really, you could write it on the back of a napkin, and then the details are like, okay, well, how do you make that work and stuff. So when you say, I'm just, the reason I added that is because I'm hedging back a little bit from the word allow, which I'm sure you didn't mean this way. You're allowing people. Um, I didn't invent this stuff. Like this is the way that books were sold before we got kind of crazy about it. Um, and I have some authority, but I am not an authority. And it's very important that artisan authoring is not the way. Just like we tend to seize on things in this industry, we're like, oh, okay, now you got to do live sales, now you got to do Kickstarter, now you got to do direct sales or whatever it is as the thing, and then everybody jumps into it. And so anyway, that's why I just wanted to hedge on that. Like everybody should do their own thing, and there's no one right way, even within artisan authoring. Now, to answer the actual question, it's tempting to say, well, if it's the opposite of rapid release, then it must be slow release, right? But that's not the case. You can publish fast, you can publish slow. It becomes irrelevant how quickly you publish rather than in the rapid release methodology, it is required because in that frame, you're feeding an algorithm. That's what I know that I'm all over the place here, but that's one of the key differences between the rapid release philosophy and what I'm calling artisan authoring is that in rapid release, you are writing for algorithms. Yes, in theory, there are, well, in actuality, but conceptually like, oh, there's readers behind those algorithms because it's serving it to readers, it's serving it to real people, and we want to reach a lot of real people. But you aren't writing directly for the people, you're writing for the algorithms because that's how you get the algorithms to promote you. That's what most people are doing. What do the algorithms want? Well, they want another book kind of just like the book I just released. It needs to be very, very similar so that everybody can see that it will hit the same tropes, the same audience. The keywords need to be right, the metadata. And so that has gotten more and more aggressive because Amazon wants to sell more books. And once authors said, sure, I can publish a book every 2 months, then they were like, oh, well, I think we might reward people who can do it every 6 weeks. What do you think about that? And then some people are like, okay, I'll do that. And so as long as there are people willing to go faster, then the algorithms are going to continue to reward the people who go faster and who deliver the books that the algorithms can just go, boom, I know who to sell that to. But as an artisan author, you're writing directly for readers and you're finding a connection to readers outside of the algorithmic thinking. As a matter of fact, you won't fit into the algorithms. And that relies on a true fans paradigm, which we can talk about. But all of this is going to say that you don't have to produce quickly in order to please the algorithms, which is a requirement in rapid release. So you'll produce more books as an artist and author. And if you have more books, you'll probably be able to sell more books as an artist and author. But that's up to you. That's not dictated by if you don't hit what the algorithms want in rapid release, then they'll tank you. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, it does. I guess when I use the term allow, I was even thinking about instead of it being so prescriptive that you must do it in this order, A, B, C, D,
Yeah.
E, F, and you shall not divert from the plan, that your plan is a lot more open, that allows authors to choose what works best for them. It almost
Hmm.
sounds like you were saying, if I can just reiterate what you just said, is that instead of feeding the algorithm, you're nourishing the true fan.
Yeah, you're going directly to the reader. And I think what's interesting is because there is this paradigm shift that has to happen. If all you do is take everything that you've been doing in rapid release and saying, "Oh, I just won't be as rapid." and I'll publish books wide, and I'll just do everything the same, but I won't go as fast, and I'll publish wide, and I'll do everything that Johnny says I should do, even though I'm not really saying you should do one specific thing. It's a mindset. It's a here are some things you might do depending on you and who you are. But if you do that, if all you do is try to transplant the way that you're working now into an artisan approach, that's not going to work. Like you have to understand that there's a flip there where you're trying to connect with individual readers, and people kind of go, "Oh, well, people aren't going to pay those prices. Like people aren't going to pay $6 or $7 for an ebook or $25 for a paperback, which is the sort of prices that I tend to charge." And the answer is, oh, yeah, there's a lot more people who will pay those prices than there will pay the 99-cent page reads. We've just gotten used to thinking that that's where the readers are. And that's where a lot of readers are. But if you say outside of the very small pool that is ebook only, Kindle only, uh, Amazon or US centric, there's a whole world of readers out there and they aren't as price sensitive. Again, I went off on a tangent. That's what I do. You light a little flame and it's like a fuse. Where am I going to go?
No, it's a good tangent. I think I think it's an important aspect because what you're talking about is the fact that yes, ebooks is huge. It's gigantic. There are authors we know making five, six, and seven-figure incomes just from selling ebooks alone,
Hmm.
but barely selling any print books. But the majority of readers out there in the world, even in the US, are still primarily reading print books, and that's like a whole missing market that a lot of indie authors don't even attend to.
Well, yeah, and there's another piece here too, is that you said that we know people who are making a lot of money in like ebook in what I'm called like rapid release, my very narrow definition of
Yeah.
rapid release. And I can imagine people listening going, well, why would I have a problem with that? Because it's clearly works. Yeah, it works for you. It works for a handful of people, but we don't hear from, I mean, there are statistics. You might know them because you're in you drafted digital and you were with Kobo and all that. Do you know like what percentage of books actually make any money at all? Do you know?
Oh, like it's like the 1 or 2% that are actually making a lot of money. I mean, the reality is, and I say this regularly, for every 100 books that are published, one or maybe five of them are actually going to sell in any significant volume. And then you have this, it looks like a
Hmm.
hockey stick, that distribution curve. Most books published were never going to sell $100 in a year.
So,
That's the
so
reality. So yes, there are people making those
yeah.
big incomes. I've only ever hit mid five figures. Like I've never gone beyond that, and I've been doing this for 40 years. So definitely a long, slow climb for this cat over here. But which I think is lucky because I never got to the point where I did something and then luck happened and then I made it
Hmm.
rich and now I'm going to resell that to every other author in the world because I said this is the one thing you should do because that's what I did and now that's why I'm rich. Thank
Right.
God that never happened to me. I know it sounds weird, but because I would misunderstand because I got lucky on one thing,
And
which
you'd have one tool in your tool belt. Yeah,
yeah,
it's the problem I think is that because those phenomenal success stories do happen, and legitimately, I mean, there's a lot of illegitimate too. Like, let's be fair. There's a lot of people
yeah,
who are claiming seven-figure incomes or whatever, and you're
right.
like, are you really, or did you have one or two good months and now you're extrapolating it out into a
Oh
year?
yeah, yeah.
Or
If all my books sold like this one, actually, Johnny, I could take one, one or two of my books and go. If all of them sold like that, I'd have a private jet.
oh yeah, I mean, I had we had one book, Sean and I. It was a $50,000 a month book for like a month, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, I could
Well,
extrapolate that
extrapolate
out.
that to all your books.
Like I have so much money, or they'll like, yeah, I'm making seven figures, but I'm spending high six figures in expenses and ads. That's also not really seven figures. But okay,
Yeah.
there are legit people out there who are just killing it. And I get it. And I've met some of them and they're great people and all that. And I don't mean to disparage them, but that's not typical. And we see those case studies because those are the people who tend to talk about it on YouTube, talk about it in interviews. They go on podcasts, they take conference stages, they write their own books. And that's a vanishingly small percentage, but because that's what everybody finds when they come in, they think quietly, subconsciously, oh, that's the only worthy goal is to be like a six-figure author. It's really possible because clearly I'm seeing it everywhere. And if I don't hit it, then I'm not trying hard enough or I just suck. And those things aren't true. So yes, that super intense rapid release methodology works for some people, but given as advice for the average person or a newbie coming in, it scares me that that's what these people are hearing.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm glad. One of the many reasons I'm glad you wrote this book is because I think it provides to authors the answer that there is no one way of doing it. Now, I want to dig back into the fact. Now, you've been a sort of a figure in the self-publishing community from the pioneering days, from the early days. There are very few people who've been
Hmm.
around a long time. Joanna Penn's one of them. You're one of them. But you've evolved as a writer over the years. And so what I want to get into is at what point did or was there a point where there was an aha moment that you had with the whole idea or the concept of the artisan author as opposed to some of the tactics that were very attractive in the past?
Yeah, yeah. So during that long and storied history, we also wrote a book called Write, Publish, Repeat, which seems like, oh, well, that's the rapid release book. And it kind of became that way. Like we started hearing it and it was orbiting Write, Publish, Repeat. We heard this term rapid release. And that was a landmark moment, not the one that you're talking about, because it's like, ooh, I don't think that's what we said. I don't think that's but I understand it. It's like a you sent Write, Publish, Repeat through that telephone game where everybody whispers it to the person next to them. You'd get out something like go as fast as possible, period, full stop. It's not about persistence and anything. But even back then, even because I do write quickly, and when I'm in kind of a publishing hiatus because I had to rebuild my business, a whole other long story, which you know, but others don't. Um, I was publishing about 1.5 million words a year, so that's a lot, right? Like I was
Yeah.
definitely releasing rapidly. Um, but I still had a strong artisan bent or mindset. I always rebelled at the idea of um, changing a title or a character or an angle because it didn't seem like it was right to the market, or writing right down the center of a genre. So like Sean's in my book Invasion is the most page turny, right down the middle of a genre book that you would think in terms of action, fast paced. But that's a 7 book series, and by book two, we were already off into exploring ancient aliens theories and stuff that was far off the map. And then, my first book was, well, my first, we can talk about this, but my first like actual book that I published as a working author was Fat Vampire, not right down the middle of a genre at all. The second was Unicorn Western. So I've always had this kind of like, I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. And if people don't like it, then who cares? Like it was a take it or leave it. I
Yeah.
don't like the idea of editing to demand or something like that. So that thread was always there. But the real moment where this kind of hit me was going to the last 20 Books to 50K conference, which then the next year was replaced by the Author Nation conference. And I went back that year and it was like AI was just making the scene. And I'm not anti AI, but AI does exacerbate rapid release. You can go rapider when you are using AI. And there were a lot of tactical thinking and discussions. And I'd been out of the field for a while. I hadn't been at conferences. So I came back and I went, oh, now I feel old. This is what it's like to feel old. And I mean old like in a career sense. Like I'm one of these guys who can't do what these young whippersnappers are doing with their fast-paced AI, crazy, taking out ads everywhere and doing all this stuff. And I saw the conference like just in a moment through the eyes of somebody who would be new. Because you're right, I have over 100 books and I've been in this and I'm adaptable and I've seen a lot of stuff, but somebody coming in new, which is a lot of those people who go to a conference, and that's the advice that they're hearing is, well, hold on. I know you just took 2 years to write the book of your heart that you've been dying as an artist to create, but now write 3 sequels that are exactly like it and be prepared to pump a bunch of money into ads and release them as fast as possible. And then don't take a vacation or slow down because you need to keep producing those. Like that's what I thought. I thought it felt like it was murdering unicorns or something. Like these people with their dreams just having them crushed. And so that's why I came back the next year and gave the presentation that you mentioned earlier.
Oh, and I'm so glad you did because Again, I see that. I work with a lot of authors and especially beginning authors who hire me for consulting. And as I start to explain some of the business, just the low level business details, without getting into fancy high end things that a lot of these authors are doing, I still see the deer in the headlights. And I go, oh no, 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 sweetie, please, please. Okay, it's okay. You got this. You don't have to do it all at once. I just want you to
Hmm.
understand. And so you're offering this refreshing view of to me, it's very refreshing because I very rarely do you hear this in the indie author circles that I attend to.
Well, I think that there are two, well, there's many kinds of writers, but I would say there's two main groups of writers. There's the kind who, um, they want to figure it out like a system. It's like a puzzle to solve. And yes, they want to produce books, and yes, they want to tell stories. But if I could presume just a little bit in the mind of the die-hard committed, rapid release author, I think that solving the puzzle thing, either they want it to take prominence or it takes prominence on its own because it's something that prominence can't be denied. You can't make it work without that. And so you enter into this mode where you're basically, it's like trying to solve a giant Rubik's cube. Now, that's not the same thing as the artist writer, the person who I just want to tell a story my way and I want to get it out because I used to read books and escape into them and they protect, when the bullies were after me, like in the never ending story, I climbed up to an attic and I would read books. So like those people have different reasons and a different kind of mindset going into writing. And there's not that one's right or wrong, but I think that quieter, the second example that I gave, just because it's quieter, it kind of gets trampled down. Like there's nothing sexy about that. You can't go out there and say, "Hey everybody, go slow and make art." Like it doesn't get eyeballs, it doesn't get clicks. Whereas, you go on YouTube and you look up publishing and there's people with big banners, "How I make a bazillion dollars on Amazon every week." Like that gets clicks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I want to go back to another misunderstanding a lot of people have. You mentioned Fat Vampire. It
Yeah.
was sort of like that first left of center where you didn't just take the tropes, you kind of went in a new direction with it. And that got picked up, that got optioned, that actually got produced into it was 2 seasons of
Hmm.
Reginald the Vampire. Now, any author who dreams of having their work turned into Hollywood or to television or whatever, I mean, you've got it made now. You're rich. You don't have to write anymore, right? Like it's all over. Like it's just all the buckets of money were thrown at you and you're done, right? That's it.
Well,
Right?
I mean,
That's
I am a TV star. Like you didn't mention that. I mean, I appear for a full like 4 or 5 solid seconds as uncredited guy in window
yeah.
in the pilot of Reginald the Vampire. No, I mean I assume that the punchline here that we're kind of looking for is no, it that does not change everything overnight. You do not, at least for me. I mean, maybe some people do. Um, it was nice. It was really cool. It was a great experience. It was just wonderful and it was good money. But I need to I need to plug along just like everybody else.
So it's not all. I mean, I'm sure it was amazing, and I've read your blog posts and newsletters sharing being on set and interacting with folks, and
Hmm.
and you got to visit beautiful Victoria, British Columbia, right?
Loved Victoria.
Which
Loved
I'm
Victoria. I want to
returning to
move
in
there.
at the end of the month. I'll be back there again, so it'll be warmer from when you were there in the winter. But where was I going with this? I completely lost my train of thought. Oh, the other thing you made me think about was Author Nation last year. I remember seeing you about halfway through towards the end of the day
Hmm.
when you were there with your books at Author Nation, and you had very few books left, and the smile on your face and the look in your eyes that this is where I belong. Can you talk about that? That so again, a lot of indie authors think, hey, we can hide behind the computer, we can publish our
Hmm.
stuff, we can throw money into ads and do all the algorithms and whatever. But another way, which could be added to or not instead of, it could just be an addition of,
Hmm.
is that in-person experience. Can you talk a little bit about the power of that? I'm going to say connections over cash.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I would say connections and then cash.
Connections and
So,
cash, yeah.
let me just tell a really brief story and then I'll circle back and answer yours. So I've had a few people recently where because I've been doing this live selling. I'm bearing the the lead a little bit, so I'll come back around. But I've been doing it for about 6 months. And only recently have I started to get some feedback from the very first people, the people who bought early. And when I have people coming back and they remember me and they're like, oh, I finished that and I want to get the sequel. And right down to my best example recently was somebody who bought one book at like this little artisan market. And he then told his friend, and fast forward through all the whatever, they contacted me. I went down and met them in person in Austin and sold them 19 more books. It was a $400 sale between these two guys, but it was because of that connection that I got, and it's so gratifying. And I just see these people as like that. My new paradigm is their friends. Like my best readers, I just treat them like friends. So to go that's the value. Like let me enroll you in
Right.
this. And then let me address briefly the connection. Oh, because that was connection versus cash, right? Or connection over
Yeah.
cash. So it can be connection and cash is my point. And then the other thing that I would just mention is the idea of selling books live, which is what we're going to talk about, is I know really scary to a lot of authors, especially super introverted people. So don't feel that you need to do this by any means, but I will say that the connection and the humanity that is maybe most strongly epitomized in a live environment, those things are key. And that idea of hiding behind the algorithms, well, I don't mean to say hiding because that's a judgment, but a lot of people want to be like, let me just sit in my little cave in my little black box and books will come out the slot and I don't have to come out into the world and I can do things remotely to make my machine work. That's great, but it's much harder to do an artisan approach that way. There's some degree of humanity and connection because what makes that machine work is in an increasingly depersonalized age with commodity thinking, a lot of readers, just like a lot of other consumers, want something that's higher quality, that they feel that they have a direct connection to the person who made it. So you can't, maybe we're seeing what's happening here. If they want a direct connection, if that's what make the machines work, if that's what makes the thousand true fans thing really hum, then you can't be totally invisible. You need some degree of connection. And that can happen through authentic social media, it can happen through your email list. You don't have to go out there live, but you do need to some degree, be yourself and expose who you are and not be corporate and anonymous. So, do you have any questions before I actually answer your question? Because I just went on for like
Keep
five
going.
minutes.
No, keep
Okay.
going. That's good. It's good. I'm following
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. So the live event success story for me, because it has been something that I really love, um, began with there's this guy that I know. He's tall, he's bald, he's Canadian, who who really deserves a lot of credit in this. So that's obviously you, in
Oh my
case
God, I
people
know
don't
him.
in case people don't know what you look like or where you're from. So, but I earlier in that it was on Vendor Day at that exact same thing. You were saying something about going out and signing books in person, and I said, "Oh my God, I get hives over that. Like that just scares the crap out of me." And then very authentically, like almost a it was almost a naive kind of response. You were like, "Why?" It was just this very like, I don't understand why that would be intimidating. And it was that discussion, which was like, oh, well, if you reframe it and you see it this way, that gave me a lot of confidence going into the book selling event that was at the end of the conference, which is what we're talking about. And that was the first time I'd ever done that. And it required a lot of research and it was super intimidating. And I brought as many books as my suitcase would carry. But that for me, and that's this artisan thing too, is understanding that everything is for you, for your circumstances, for your situation, not for everybody. For me, that was like, I mean, I'm half extrovert at least. So it was like, oh, I can go out and connect with people and be an extrovert and make friends and make connections and sell my books and hold them in my hand and see people's reactions to them and see people look at a cover and say, oh, wow, that looks really cool. Or to see them light up when I describe some premise and they go, wow, that sounds really interesting. It was just addictive. And the other reason that I really liked it so much, and this is like when I went home and signed up for more stuff, which I've just been nonstop on that, is it's so proactive. It's something that you have control over. in a way that you don't have control over. Like I published a book, I placed an ad, and now I have to sit back and wait. Whereas with live events, I could say, I could in two ways. I could say, well, yeah, I got nothing going on Saturday. There's a market, and I can go and make a few $100s. So that's control. Like I just make that money come out of nowhere. Or when I'm in person with somebody, I can subtly tweak the ways that I talk to people, my pitches, and so I can see what works in real time and what doesn't work, and what's extraneous and what's not, and what engages people. I mean, things like Unicorn Western is just this super gonzo title if people haven't heard of it. And whenever people pick it up or look at it, I say, yeah, a reader once described that as it's like if Stephen King was on acid when he wrote The Dark Tower. And that 99.9% of the time gets a real laugh and they look at it with new eyes. And that sort of thing I would never be able to do before. I wouldn't be able to adjust in real time. I wouldn't be able to say that's a pitch that works, that's a pitch that doesn't work.
Right.
So I love the control of it as well.
Well, because you're talking not necessarily just about pitching, you're talking about interacting.
Yeah.
So if you can tell that this person has never read The Gunslinger and is maybe anti-drugs or whatever, so you said acid and Stephen King, you
Yeah.
immediately know that's not their cup of tea. You can adjust and potentially find something that's more suited for them, rather than if that
Hmm.
was an ad, they see the ad and they're gone, right? They,
Right.
they they just gloss over and they move to the next thing. But you're in a conversation with someone, so you can see the humanity in the reader, and the reader can see the humanity in you, and that can lead to a really profound connection that
Yeah.
may not be a sale, or it might just be one book. But what was that? How many months later? 19
Yeah.
books later, and it was actually,
Yeah.
you weren't at an event. Did you go to meet them somewhere to get them these
Yeah,
books?
I went down to Book People here in Austin, and it was like a parking lot drug deal. Like it was like, "Hey, I got some books. You want some books?"
It was a bookstore tailgate party. That's what it was.
That's exactly what it was. No, it is interesting. It's interesting that you say even if it doesn't like become a sale, because that's one of the hacks. And I think you might have taught me this too, is look at it as connections. And then if sales happen, great. But that if that's not the goal, like the only goal, then it helps when you have like I've had times, I'm pretty good at this, but I've had times where it's like, well, 2 hours went by and nobody's even stopped. Like that has happened.
Oh yeah.
But it helps when I don't, and because then I'll get mad. If somebody comes over, the next person after that long break comes over and they look and they're interested and then they leave. And I'm like, why didn't you buy a book? But it helps with that because it's like the goal is to connect. And I've had people that I've just, once I adopted that, I started just being really, really generous with my time and attention. And I know this guy came over and he was, um, he was interested in becoming a writer and but like it wasn't he didn't want to be like a fiction writer. He had a bunch of correspondence with a friend or a guy that he at least knew who was in prison, and it was apparently very interesting, this correspondence, and he kind of wanted advice. And I just, okay, there's nobody else waiting to buy, so I mean, if there's a customer, I'm going to go talk to the customer. But like if you're just hanging out, I'll talk to you for as long as you want. And in the end, he did end up buying something. That's not why I did it, but he was very interesting.
Yeah.
And but I found that too. I found that people there's almost a social obligation. I don't know if he read what he bought. He bought a book called The Target. And I don't know if he read it, but he was by the end, I didn't push it. I didn't say you can buy anything. He was like, "Oh, so what tell me about this book." And that sort of thing happens too. It's a different human experience. I think I look at it as this little sociological experiment every time I do it rather than like I'm going to go sell.
Yeah. But let's talk about some of the logistics, because I mean, you really, in the last 6 months, you've really adopted this, and
Totally.
and you've had almost every weekend. I know there's been family commitments and stuff like that, but almost every weekend you're at a different fair or market. That must have been a significant upfront cost then, or is that a cost that you've accrued over time?
I got lucky, honestly. I got lucky because, and when I say lucky, I mean that what I ended up doing would have been an intelligent strategy. And so if anybody's listening to this and wants to like get into live events, you could do worse than to follow what I'm about to say. But I lucked into it. And it was that every event that I ended up signing up for, not literally every single one, but like there was a trend. they were a little bigger each time, and so it just happened that way. So the very first one was, as we mentioned, the Rave or Reader Nation event, and that was low leverage for or high leverage for me, low risk because I got the table for free because I was a speaker. So that's the only reason I did it, and I might not be doing any of this if I'd had to pay for that table. And so that was easy because I didn't have to pay for anything except for the books. And then the next one was like a little farmer's market. And so I borrowed a table or I borrowed a tent because they're outside from a friend of mine. And I borrowed a table from the same person. And I just set up tent, table, tablecloth, books. And then it was like, okay, well, what if I had two tables? What if I ordered more books? And I just sort of stepped up and it almost felt like, so like, let's say I do an event, the little teeny farmer's market, maybe I make $250. So probably 100 of that is expenses because I had to pay a small amount for the place. I had to pay for, uh, the books. I didn't have any systems in place. So, okay, so I just made $150. I would then use that to reinvest. I would buy back the books that I sold, but then I would buy more, or I would buy signage, or I would buy something else that felt like an optimization. So only now we're halfway through the year, and I'm about to go to my first Comic Con in about a week and a half.
Ooh.
And if I'd have started with that, and I got this huge, like 8x8 banner that our mutual friend Todd Fondestock like recommended that I do that and kind of coached me through it. But that was a $500 banner. If I could tilt my webcam, which I can't because it's fixed on my computer, I have, oh my God, I have so many books over here. There's probably five or 600 books right to my left. And that doesn't
Wow.
even count all the ones that are up front in three bins that I usually take to markets. So yeah, I mean, it's a crap ton of expense. Like author copies get really expensive. I had to buy tables and racks and tablecloths and a POS point of sale system and cards, download cards. But all of that was based on feedback and responding. So I'll give you two examples. So the first is, and we've talked about this, this is pretty amusing. You sit behind a table with your books in front of you, and people come over and they look for a while before realizing you are the author. Oh, you wrote these books. No, I'm just some guy who bought some books and came out to a farmer's market and decided to resell them. No, of course they're my books.
They
So
all seem to
I
have the
got
same name on the
they
front.
all have the same name. Who would have thought? So I got I got one big sign that has my picture on it. It says local author, Johnny B. Truant, keeping Austin weird since whatever it says, with my picture on it. So like that cleared it up. Oh, okay, you're the author.
Well,
When
it
that didn't
sometimes clears it up when people actually read the sign.
Oh, well, that's why I then got a shirt that says author across the front. And so with two of these signs and me with author and me saying to half the people who come over, I wrote all these books, people would still be surprised. So that was one. Another was a lot of people would say, do you have a card? And I never would have thought about that. Like I've never had business cards really. But it's because they wanted to, some people say it just because it's a gracious way to leave. They aren't interested and they want to be polite and pretend they're going to check
Yeah,
up on
I
you.
get it.
But some people genuinely only read on e-readers or they want the large type in the e-readers or they only listen to audiobooks but they do want to check you out. And it happens so much that I finally ordered cards. But like I wouldn't have known that from the start. So the iterative approach of very small events which I reinvested into bigger and bigger events has been like a godsend and now I actively seek out events that are really expensive because the entry price correlates really well with the sales. And it's
Yes.
like the cheaper ones aren't worth it to me anymore. Like the $35 farmers market isn't worth it for me. I want to spend the $700 street festival.
Ah, fantastic. I love that. I love that evolution. And
It's
it's
great.
been such a thrill watching that happen because I've been fortunate enough that we connect on a regular basis and
Mhm.
touch base and keep each other up to date. So I've been watching that grow and go, oh my God, this guy's knocking it out of the park. This is exactly what I tell people to do, but I haven't really done a lot of yet. Do as I say, not what I do. But
Yeah.
for people who are listening, as we get close to the end of this, so if they're interested in the artisan author, Johnny, is there a way they're going to be able? Because I know the book's not going to be out on the public market until the end of the year. I've
Yeah,
been
it's like November 5th or something,
yeah,
maybe the
but
4th.
but but wait, there's more. There is an opportunity for people to get access to it early, right?
Yeah, I'm doing a Kickstarter. So the
Ooh, tell
Kickstarter,
us. Tell us, Johnny.
that's some good acting over there. You get the Canadian Academy Award. So I'm doing a Kickstarter for it, and it runs from July 15th through August 14th, and that's at johnnybtruant.com/artisan for artisan author. But I'm doing kind of an interesting, I think this is kind of interesting. Maybe we'll see if it works out. Is in addition to the book, with the Kickstarter, you can do more, right? Like you can do additional stuff. So I'm seeing it as like a continuum of education. Like a lot of people are just going to get the book or the audiobook or the paperback or the hardback, and that's the way they're going to learn it. They're just going to read it, which is normal. But then above that, I have like a bunch of tiers of what I'm calling Artisan University,
Ooh.
which like I don't like online courses in the way that they're usually conceived. And so I'm framing this as like around like a college model. So it's going to be like 10 weeks of twice a week where we'll meet like a lecture and a discussion and then we use the book as a textbook. So it's the same material, but we all go through it together, like a reading assignment, and then we get together, we discuss, and there are exercises and all that as if you were taking a course. So that's kind of fun for me because if it works, I mean, number one, I make money on it, which I'm not going to be sad about. But number two, it I love it is a whole story on my Substack about how I wanted to get into like college type teaching. Maybe I even told you about this. And so if this works, if people like it, I don't see why I couldn't just do these every time I read a new nonfiction book. So I'm kind of excited to see what happens with that.
Oh God, and I'm excited about it too. So basically, if people go to johnnybtruant.com, that's where they can find the Kickstarter or anything else related to.
johnnybtruant.com/artisan. It's
Oh,
it's a
slash
reader.
artisan.
Yeah, it's a redirect.
Yeah,
If you come to my site, interestingly, I don't actually have it on the site because I'm trying to chicken with my head cut off around here. So that's just a redirect, johnnybtruant.com/artisan.
there you go. Awesome. And that'll take you to the Kickstarter, so
Yep.
people can check that out as
Yep.
well. Well, I look forward to finding out how this goes as well. Any last words of advice for other writers out there as we finalize and wrap up this conversation?
Yeah, I would say that the number one thing that no matter what approach you take, do it mindfully. Like I think critical thinking is something that has been underrepresented, I think everywhere, but really in authoring. And so don't do what I say, don't do what somebody else says. Don't mindlessly follow anything. You need to learn to think for yourself. And I think that so many people, even if they conceptually agree with that, they rebel against it subconsciously because you want a map to follow. Like you want to say, give me a guaranteed, I'm putting it in air quotes, a guaranteed way to get from where I am now to where I want to be with the minimum amount of effort, and no uncertainty. And okay, that's a great dream. I'd like that too, but it doesn't exist. It's a fantasy. So you can continue to believe in fantasies, or you can learn the atrophied skill of really honestly thinking for yourself and making choices based on who you are and where you are. And so get my book, don't get my book, I don't care. But I hope that more people will enter into things with conscious decisions rather than just blind followership.
Straight from your lips to my heart. Johnny, thanks for hanging out with me again today.
Thanks so much, Mark.